Marcus Grail didn't set out to crash on a forgotten moon. He didn't plan to spiral through an asteroid field the size of New Jersey, or to lose his nav core to a gambling debt involving 3 Harkin beetle brawlers and a bottle of cinnamon whiskey. But such was the nature of Marcus's luck. If the universe had a cosmic sense of humor, he was its punchline. He groaned as he pulled himself from the twisted wreckage of his cargo skimmer, brushing off shards of composite glass from his jacket. Above him, 2 suns baked the sky in pink and violet, and alien birds with too many wings screamed overhead like nature's alarm clock on steroids. "Well," he muttered, kicking what was once probably an oxygen stabilizer, "that's going on the insurance claim I'll never file." The moon, Velmyra, according to what little his cracked data slate still displayed, was lush, humid, and far too green for his taste. Vines dangled like accusing fingers. Trees stretched toward the heavens with silvery bark and leaves that shimmered like wet glass. The place smelled like sap, wet stone, and faintly of something that reminded him of his ex-girlfriend's perfume. That last part was probably a hallucination. He was out of food. His comm beacon lay in 4 regretful pieces, and every insect here seemed to be both venomous and emotionally offended by his presence. Then he found the camp. It wasn't much, just a canopy of woven fiber stretched between 2 towering roots, with a fire pit that glowed faint blue from an efficient heatstone core. There were no visible weapons, no surveillance cams. Just a pot hanging over the fire, something warm simmering inside. And sitting beside it, cross-legged, as if she owned the moon itself, was the most composed woman Marcus had ever seen. She looked human, mostly. Tall, with golden blonde hair coiled in a utilitarian braid, dressed in simple gray leathers patched at the elbows and knees. But it was the ears that gave her away. Long, elegant, and slightly curved upward like the tips of a crescent moon. Not human, not entirely. She didn't look up when he stumbled into her camp. She just stirred the pot and said without emotion, "You're late." Marcus blinked. "I am." She finally raised her eyes. They were green glowingly, unnaturally green, and held the kind of stillness he associated with high-level diplomats or serial killers. He hoped for the former. "You entered the perimeter 17 minutes ago," she said. "I expected you 12 minutes after that. You took the wrong path around the ridge." Marcus scratched his neck. "Yeah, well, the ridge and I had a disagreement. It said I couldn't climb it, and I said, 'Watch me.' The ridge won." "Obviously." She gestured to the other side of the fire. Marcus sat cautiously. His stomach growled loud enough to startle a small rodent near the camp. "I'm Marcus," he offered, holding out a hand. She looked at it like it was a bug she might tolerate but wouldn't touch. "Kelari." They sat in silence as she ladled thick, steaming stew into a carved wooden bowl and handed it to him. It smelled incredible, somewhere between roasted herbs and grilled meat with an undertone of something earthy. He didn't ask what the meat was. He didn't want to know. "You cook?" he asked. "I survive," she replied. "Same thing but with less seasoning." He took a bite and groaned. "Okay, I take it back. You survive like a 5-star chef." A flicker, just a flicker, of amusement crossed her face. Marcus counted it as a win. Over the next hour they ate without speaking much. Marcus, normally full of quips and nervous chatter, found himself unusually quiet. Kelari exuded a calm that filled the air like incense. It wasn't just her presence. It was the way the camp was arranged, the subtle marks on nearby trees, the faint hum of a hidden energy field that likely kept predators at bay. This wasn't her first time living rough. He guessed it wouldn't be her last. So, he waved vaguely toward the jungle. "Live here full-time or just summering on Velmyra?" Kelari didn't answer immediately. She tilted her head, listening. Then she stood, grabbed a slender staff from beside her bedroll and pointed it at the foliage. 3 seconds later, a 6-legged creature with too many teeth lunged from the shadows. Marcus screamed. Kelari didn't. With one smooth motion, she jammed the end of the staff into the ground, triggering a pulse of light that stopped the creature midair. It collapsed, twitching, then scurried away as if deeply embarrassed. Marcus gaped. Okay, that was cool. Also slightly terrifying, but mostly cool. Kelari sat again and resumed eating. You're loud. It found us because of your voice. Right, so lesson learned. No more mid-dinner comedy sets. Later that night, after they banked the fire and the jungle sang its endless chorus, Marcus lay awake beneath a tarp she'd strung up for him. He could see her silhouette across the embers, still upright, eyes half closed but clearly alert. She hadn't told him where she came from. He hadn't asked. Not yet. But something in her stillness reminded him of the void between stars, quiet, vast, and unknowable. He grinned in the dark. Hey, Kelari. She didn't move. Yes. If I die out here, can you at least tell people I went out heroically fighting a beast twice my size? Not because I tripped over my own boots and fell on a cactus. A pause, I'll consider it. And for the first time since crashing on this ridiculous moon, Marcus laughed. Not because he was safe, not because things were looking up, but because somehow, despite the odds, he wasn't alone. Marcus woke to the sound of something humming, not in a musical way, more like a low mechanical purr that sent little vibrations through the ground beneath him. He sat up, squinting into the misty morning light. The fire was out, the stew pot was gone, and Kelari was crouched 10 meters away, her long ears twitching as she inspected something half buried in the dirt. He rubbed his eyes. Am I dreaming, or are you digging up an alien robot? Kelari didn't look back. It's a relay node, damaged, possibly pre-collapse tech. I detected its signal faintly overnight. Couldn't locate it until the atmospheric interference dropped. Marcus stood and shuffled over, still wrapped in his makeshift blanket toga. Translation: it beeped and you tracked it, got it. The device was partially encased in cracked obsidian-like stone, vines wrapping around its blackened shell. Kelari moved with calm precision, brushing soil away from the smooth metal. Marcus crouched beside her, fingers twitching with curiosity. You know, I've been around tech all my life, he said. Ships, drones, entertainment systems that judge your playlist in real time. But this is either ancient or extremely illegal. Kelari glanced at him. Both are possible. She slid a thin blade from her belt and pried open a hatch. A flicker of blue light blinked once then again, pulsing erratically. Marcus tilted his head. That's either a distress beacon or a bomb that's politely asking for attention. It's a beacon, she said, but encrypted. The signature isn't local. Not local like another system. He asked. Kelari's gaze was sharp. Not local like another galaxy. Marcus blinked. Great. Just when I was getting used to the bugs and the carnivorous houseplants. Now we're talking extragalactic mysteries. They hauled the node back to the camp, Marcus handling most of the lifting while Kelari navigated the terrain like she'd been born in it. She barely left a footprint. He, on the other hand, tripped twice, got tangled in a root once, and at one point let out a yelp so high-pitched a flock of winged lizards launched into the sky. Back at the fire pit, Kelari connected the node to a slate she'd been hiding under her sleeping mat. Its surface came alive with data streams in a language Marcus didn't recognize. Is that runic? He asked. She didn't answer, too focused. Her fingers danced over the interface. Glyphs shimmered, shifted, and finally rearranged into a slowly revolving seal, an 8-pointed star surrounded by orbiting moons. Kelari stiffened. That a good sign? Marcus asked cautiously. She exhaled. It's the royal crest of the Tri-Orion Dominion. I'm going to assume that means something extremely important and slightly dramatic. It means, she said, closing the slate with a firm motion, they're looking for someone, and they've been looking here. Marcus crossed his arms. Okay, hang on. If you're implying this search has something to do with you. I'm not implying anything, she said quickly. Because the moment the mysterious survivalist with laser staff skills and glowy green eyes starts getting cryptic about royal empires, I get twitchy. Kelari's ears twitched again, which Marcus had decided was her version of an eye roll. You don't need to get involved. Oh, fantastic, he muttered. That always means I'm about to get involved. Kalari stood, her posture suddenly different, more rigid. The message was coded, meant only for those with proper clearance. The encryption keys are old, forgotten by most, but not by me. Marcus stared at her. Just how not ordinary are you, Kalari? She didn't answer. Instead, she turned away, arms folded behind her back, staring at the jungle canopy as if expecting it to open up and swallow them whole. Marcus stepped forward. Okay, listen. You don't have to tell me everything. But at this point, I think I deserve to know whether I should be worried about assassination squads, secret heirs, or galaxy-wide bounty hunts. Kalari glanced at him over her shoulder. All of the above. He paused. You're joking. I'm not. Well, at least I'm consistent. Wherever I crash, I attract trouble. That earned him a genuine, if tired, smile. Later that afternoon, they ventured farther into the forest. Kalari claimed she needed to check a sub-terrace signal relay, another artifact of forgotten tech, one she suspected was connected to the node. Marcus followed, clutching a stun baton he insisted on calling Zappy. You named your weapon, she asked. I bond with my tools, he replied. You want to borrow Zappy? I'll pass. They found the relay under a ridge overgrown with moss and spider vines. While Kalari interfaced with the panel, Marcus climbed to the top for a better signal read on his own slate, now duct-taped together with spare wiring and chewing gum. It wasn't elegant, but it beeped when he wanted it to beep. Mostly. From his vantage point, he spotted a shimmer in the air. Kalari, he called down, I think we've got company. She was beside him in seconds, looking in the same direction. The shimmer resolved into something more solid, angular shapes, moving in coordinated lines. Soldiers. Not native. Not from any known planetary force Marcus recognized. They wore dark armor with golden trim, moving silently through the trees. Kalari pulled him down. Don't speak, don't move. What if I need to sneeze? Don't. They lay motionless as the squad passed. The soldiers were scanning with spectral lenses, muttering into visors in a language Marcus didn't know but Kalari clearly understood. She whispered, They're tracking the beacon. He whispered back, So not a fan club? Definitely not. As they crawled away from the ridge, Marcus couldn't help but whisper, On a scale of 1 to catastrophic, how bad is this? Kalari gave him a grim look. They only deploy those units when a royal is missing. He swallowed. And you'd know this because. She paused, then softly, because I trained them. The jungle was quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. This was the careful, coiled silence that meant something dangerous had just passed through, and the world was still holding its breath. Marcus and Kalari crouched under a thick veil of vines, hearts beating against dirt and damp stone. The last of the armored squad had vanished into the trees minutes ago, leaving behind only the scent of burnt ozone and crushed foliage. Marcus exhaled slowly, then whispered, Okay, so, you trained those walking tanks. You want to expand on that before I have a full-scale existential crisis. Kalari didn't answer immediately. She was listening, watching. It was unnerving how still she could become, like someone had hit pause on her body but left her mind spinning. Then she said, in that frustratingly calm voice of hers, I used to command the Tri-Orion Royal Guard. I was their highest-ranking strategist and combat tactician. Marcus blinked. That's extremely specific, and also extremely above my pay grade. I didn't have a choice. I was born into it. Oh, of course you were, let me guess. Secret daughter of a high noble, raised in the palace, trained with plasma swords by blind masters who speak in riddles. Kalari arched an eyebrow, mostly. He stared at her. Wait, that wasn't sarcasm. I never joke about blind masters. They're remarkably fast. Marcus groaned and sat back against a tree. So this is where I find out you're not just a trained soldier. You're some kind of space princess. Kalari hesitated. No, she said softly, not a princess. He looked up, she met his eyes, an empress. Silence, a very long silence. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Cool, he finally said, nodding too quickly. Super casual, love that. Just chilling with the ruler of 12 star systems. Very normal day for me. Totally standard Tuesday. Kelari gave him a look that fell somewhere between amusement and pity. It was never my intention to tell you. Well, I'd hope not. I mean, you cooked dinner without ordering a single servant around. Very off-brand for an Empress. She stood, we need to move. They'll sweep back this way. If they detect our biosignatures, they'll call in orbital support. That sounds bad. I'm assuming that's bad. They'll melt the ridge. Yes, okay, we're definitely leaving now. They packed up fast. Kelari moved like a ghost, and Marcus mostly tried not to trip over his own feet. The two of them slipped through narrow valleys and over root-choked paths, avoiding sensors Kelari spotted with instinct alone. Marcus was convinced she could see magnetic waves or read gravity like a map. As they passed a shallow river, she stopped abruptly. There's a drone nest nearby, she said. Marcus frowned. Friendly. They bite. He didn't ask more questions. Not after the last insect incident, which had ended with him shrieking and Kelari having to remove a spine from his rear with surgical precision and far too little sympathy. They doubled back and took a detour through a cave system. The entrance shimmered with ion-charged moss, pulsing softly with light. Kelari brushed a hand along the wall. This tunnel was part of the old refuge routes, before the last war. Marcus ran a hand over the smooth surface. How old? 300 years, maybe more. Wow, he said, then squinted at the moss. Any chance it's not carnivorous? No. Okay, great, we love adventure. They walked in silence for a while, their boots crunching softly on the stone. The deeper they went, the more Kelari seemed to change, not in her demeanor but in her presence. Like the darkness fit her, cloaked her, made her sharper. Marcus watched her from the corner of his eye. You miss it, don't you? She didn't answer at first. Miss what? The throne, command, the empire thing. Kelari shook her head. I don't miss ruling, I miss purpose. Out here I survive, but back there I was needed. Sure, but I bet there weren't as many weird fruit spiders back there. She smirked faintly. No, just senators who acted like them. They reached a chamber lit with blue crystals. Kelari activated a panel in the wall, revealing a small cache of supplies, energy cells, rations, a shortwave scrambler, and what Marcus could only describe as a collapsible plasma glaive. Why do you have a secret armory under a jungle moon? She looked at him. Doesn't everyone? He opened his mouth to respond but thought better of it. They rested briefly, eating protein tabs that tasted like spicy clay and trying not to think about orbital strikes. Marcus leaned back, arms behind his head. So, he said, mouth full, how did an Empress end up living like a survivalist? She was quiet. Then, my council betrayed me. I refused to approve a planetary culling. There was a famine on Drexia Prime. They wanted to optimize the population. I refused. They declared me compromised and launched a coup. I escaped during the purge. Marcus frowned. That's horrifying, also weirdly familiar. I mean, not the empire part, but being screwed over by people you trusted. He rolled up his sleeve, showing a small burn scar. Mine was less dramatic. Got fired from a salvage crew when I refused to jettison a med capsule with a patient still inside. Captain said I was soft, so I threw his favorite chair out the airlock. Kelari looked at the scar, then at him. You would have made a decent soldier. Marcus shrugged. I prefer jobs where I get yelled at less and shot at, only slightly less. Suddenly the scrambler on Kelari's belt buzzed. She snatched it up. A distorted voice crackled through. Resonance trail confirmed, deploying second wave. Long-range scan detected royal DNA signature. Priority Alpha. Marcus's eyes widened. They know you're here. Kelari stared at the device. Worse, they know exactly who I am. He stood. So what's the plan? We run again. He hesitated. You always run. Her jaw tensed. I survive. Marcus stepped closer. Then maybe it's time to stop just surviving. Her eyes met his sharp, unreadable. "Don't follow me if you're not ready." He gave her a crooked grin. "Oh, I'm not ready at all, but I'm coming anyway." They moved through the jungle like shadows chased by thunder. Kelari navigated instinctively, not consulting any map, her eyes flicking toward every shift of light, every tremor beneath their feet. Marcus, meanwhile, did his best not to die. That was his entire strategy. Keep up with the superpowered space Empress and try not to faceplant into a venomous root beast. Again. "Just so we're clear," he panted, scrambling over a moss-covered boulder. "This is still the part of the story where we survive, right?" Kelari didn't look back. "That depends on your ability to stop breathing like a wounded star yak." "That's just how I breathe," he grumbled. "Asthma meets anxiety meets, oh no, my left boot just committed treason." She stopped, turned, and without a word, reached down to adjust his boot's magnetic clasp. He tried to ignore the fact that an actual galactic ruler was fixing his footwear. "Thanks," he muttered. Kelari nodded once and resumed walking. "Try not to lose a foot. We may need to run faster soon." They arrived at a waterfall that split a cragged cliffside. Behind the roaring veil of water was a narrow path, barely visible unless you knew it was there. Kelari slipped through it like water. Marcus attempted the same and got soaked head to toe. She knelt by a terminal embedded in the wall, its screen flickering faintly. With a few deft movements, she powered it using a coil she wore on her wrist. A personal energy cell, Marcus realized, disguised as jewelry. He watched as she input a sequence, and the screen lit up with schematics of the local terrain. "I embedded a failsafe here years ago," she said. "A short-range transporter. It won't get us off-world, but it can leap us to the polar ridge. There's a comm station there. If it still works, we can broadcast beyond the system." Marcus nodded. "Great, and what's the catch?" Kelari hesitated. "It's biolocked to me." "Well, good news," he said, backing up dramatically. "You are you. It hasn't been used since before the purge. If the system flags me as a threat—" "Oh, got it. You mean it might vaporize you for safety. Classic failsafe logic." She stood. "It's a risk we'll have to take." The transporter platform sat under a collapsed awning at the far end of the mine. Marcus helped clear away the rubble, mostly by pretending to lift heavy things while Kelari did the actual lifting. As she stepped onto the pad, Marcus hesitated. "Wait, is it big enough for two?" "No." "Okay, so I go first." She looked at him. "No. Right, Empress first makes sense." She placed her hand on the control panel. A flash of light scanned her palm, then paused. Marcus held his breath. The console blinked once red, then again yellow, then finally green. "You're still authorized," he said. She didn't respond. Instead, she looked at him and said, "The moment I activate this, they'll track the signal. They'll know I'm leaving the sector. Once I jump, you need to run. North, 2 kilometers. I'll send coordinates to meet at the polar ridge." He swallowed. "You're not coming back for me, are you?" Kelari's gaze softened. "I always come back." She activated the pad. There was a brief shimmer, a crackle of heat, and then she was gone. Marcus stood there alone, the air still humming from her departure. He looked down at the now-dead console. "Well, that's not ominous at all." He turned and began jogging north, which, for Marcus, looked a lot like tripping repeatedly in a consistent direction. He made it maybe 500 meters before the sky cracked open. A massive atmospheric transport burst through the clouds. Black hull, golden insignia, unmistakably royal. It hovered for a moment, then released a team of aerial scouts, their armor gleaming like obsidian knives. "Aw, come on," Marcus groaned. "I just dried my socks." He ducked behind a fallen tree as the patrol fanned out. He tapped furiously on his slate, trying to jam a signal burst toward Kelari. "Nothing." "Of course," he whispered, "because nothing about today has been remotely cooperative." He moved cautiously, dodging scanning drones, sliding under brush, and at one point hiding inside a hollow log that smelled strongly of something very dead. Finally, his slate buzzed. A ping. Coordinates. He followed the signal until the trees thinned and he stumbled into a basin surrounded by black stone pillars. In the center stood Kelari. "I see your running technique hasn't improved," she said, arms crossed. "I had to wrestle a drone with a superiority complex," he gasped. "It insulted my boots. I took it personally." She stepped aside to reveal an old comm tower, mostly intact but flickering. "I got the signal out," she said. "A trusted contact in the old fleet. If anyone's still loyal, they'll respond." Marcus leaned on a pillar, "And if they're not? Then we keep moving." The wind howled over the ridge. Somewhere in the distance, the royal transport circled back. They didn't have long. "You know," Marcus said, "when I met you, I thought you were just some mysterious forest woman with weird ears and great stew. Turns out, you're a deposed empress with a kill count and a rebel signal tower." Kelari looked at him. "Is that a complaint?" "Depends. Do I get diplomatic immunity?" "No." "Then yes, very strong complaint." They laughed, and for a moment the danger fell away. Then the comm tower pinged, loud, sharp. A voice crackled through, one Kelari hadn't heard in a long time. "Your Highness, if this is truly you, the stars are watching and we are coming." Kelari's face shifted, hope, doubt, fear, then resolve. "It's time," she said. Marcus groaned. "Please tell me time means a nap." "No, it means war." The sky cracked open like a wound. Two cruisers emerged from high orbit, descending over the polar ridge with a grace that only old-world royal engineering could produce. Their hulls shimmered gold and obsidian in the sun's light, bearing the unmistakable crest of the Tri-Orion Dominion. And unlike the scouts, these ships didn't bother hiding. This was declaration, not pursuit. Marcus stood near the tower, gripping his slightly dented stun baton, still proudly named Zappy, with all the confidence of a man who'd lost the manual to every situation he was in. "So," he said, eyes on the sky, "what's the protocol when two Imperial death machines show up, and one might be full of allies, but the other might be full of people who want to vaporize us?" Kelari didn't flinch. "You wait." "Right. Classic royal patience strategy. I'm more of a scream and run kind of guy." She stood at the edge of the ridge, robes now wrapped over her armor, an intentional symbol, Marcus realized. She wasn't just hiding or surviving anymore. She was presenting herself. A sleek shuttle detached from the first cruiser and landed with a hiss of steam. The ramp descended. From it, a man emerged, tall, rigid, silver armor polished to a mirror shine. His eyes, as cold as Kelari's had once been, scanned the ridge before settling on her. "High Empress Kelari Velarin," he said, bowing deeply. "Your message was received. The loyal fleet has gathered in the outer moons. The throne awaits." Marcus blinked. "Wait, that's it, just like that." The man turned to him. "You are." "I'm Marcus, human, not dangerous, unless you're allergic to sarcasm." Kelari stepped forward. "He's with me." The officer raised a brow, but said nothing. Kelari walked toward the shuttle, then paused. "You came, you waited for me." Marcus shrugged. "I considered fleeing to a swamp and living with amphibians, but they don't have your sense of humor." "You still think I have a sense of humor?" "It's deeply buried, like a lost artifact." She smiled faintly. Then she looked out over the basin as the second cruiser began its descent, this one darker, its engines emitting a more aggressive pitch. The officer's jaw tensed. "That ship is not ours." Kelari's voice lowered. "Zevran." Marcus didn't need context. That name had come up once. The cousin, the usurper, the man who ordered a culling Kelari refused. From the second shuttle emerged soldiers, black armor, no crest, no ceremony. Just silent, practiced menace. And in their midst, Lord Zevran stepped out. He looked like Kelari in posture but without the stillness. He moved like someone who had too many speeches prepared and not enough people to listen. "Well, well," Zevran said, arms wide. "The ghost returns. How delightful." Kelari didn't react. "You knew I wouldn't stay hidden forever." Zevran smiled. "I was counting on it, and now you've handed yourself to me." Marcus stepped forward. You know, for someone about to try a hostile takeover, you could at least fake manners. Zevran blinked. What is that? Still Marcus. Still human. Still armed with a baton I don't fully understand. Kelari didn't draw her weapon. Instead, she stepped toward Zevran. The people followed me once, and they will again. You won't win by force. Zevran sneered. Force is all they understand now. The air pulsed. Marcus felt it first, a kind of pressure behind his eyes like the gravity had changed. Then the ridge shimmered. Stealth fields deactivated. Dozens of figures stood along the cliffs, soldiers in gleaming armor bearing Kelari's seal. Zevran froze. Kelari's voice was low and steady. I never sent the message to only one fleet. Zevran drew his weapon. Kelari didn't flinch. A single shot rang out, but it didn't come from Zevran. One of Kelari's guards had fired. Not at Zevran, but at his lieutenant. The traitor fell and chaos erupted. For a moment, Marcus had no idea who was shooting at whom. He dove behind a rock, clutching Zappi. Then he saw Kelari moving through the chaos like wind through reeds, never panicking, always 5 steps ahead. She reached Zevran, who had drawn a plasma blade, and for a second it looked like royalty would clash the old-fashioned way. But Kelari didn't draw her own blade. She disarmed him with one move, something fast and brutal, a flick of the wrist that left Zevran on the ground, breathless. It's over, she said. Zevran spat. You can't restore what's broken. No, she said, voice quiet, but I can build something better. She turned and the battle slowed. Her soldiers, her real ones, stood at attention. The others laid down their arms. Marcus, standing beside a half-melted rock and a very confused drone, gave a thumbs up. Kelari walked back to him. It's done. Marcus nodded. So, now what? You get a crown and a planet. I go back to fixing freighters and failing to flirt with bartenders. She looked at him for a long moment. Come with me. He blinked. What? To the capital, to the fleet. To rebuild the throne, I'll need someone who sees the galaxy differently. He scratched his neck. You sure? I still don't know how to use cutlery with more than 2 prongs. I'll teach you. And you're okay with me being the only guy at the royal table who doesn't wear capes. Capes are optional. He hesitated, then grinned. Fine. But I get an official title, something majestic. She smirked. Royal Consultant of Improvisational Diplomacy. I was thinking Ambassador of Bad Ideas, but yours has a better ring. They stood together as the sun broke over the ridge, casting gold across a jungle that had nearly killed them. Ships hovered in the